How beautiful it is to come together. How beautiful it is to have such wonderful musical inspiration. I'm so grateful, ever grateful. All traditions have honored the light. Just as we celebrated the candlelight service on Friday night, it was absolutely beautiful and warmed my heart. I shared with the participants the next morning, I woke up and just this glow was in my heart, even more than usual. And so we celebrate the light. All of the traditions do. So today, as I mentioned before, we're celebrating solstice and we're celebrating Christmas. And I have a special presentation for you from our own Amy Treehart Robb, who will now tell us a few things about solstice, and then I will give the talk. Amy Treehart Robb, let's welcome her.
Thank you, Rev. Joan. Good morning, everyone. So just a few things about the winter solstice that I put together. The seed of light is born in the dark womb of midwinter, the time we know as the winter solstice. Solstice means stand still. For every year on or around December 21st in the northern hemisphere, the sun appears to rise and set in the same place for a few days. It is the time of the longest night, when Earth's very breath seems to falter in the face of the overpowering dark. Then, barely noticeable at first, the sun begins its long journey towards the opposite pole, and all of creation begins to exhale. A cycle of new life can begin once again. From the dawn of time, human beings have hailed the return of the sun as an occasion of the highest significance, the promise of the continuation of life on Earth. One ancient temple that still stands as a memorial to the importance of the solstice to the proto-Druids of the New Stone Age is in County Meath, Ireland, which today we call New Grange. The largest circular earth chamber in Europe, it is perhaps the most mysterious and awe-inspiring Neolithic monument in Ireland, believed to be over 5,000 years old. At New Grange, we can imagine how long ago shamans, proto-Druids, and other walkers between the worlds would have braved the spiral threshold every winter to sit in the pitch-dark interior, where the dead were also buried, perhaps fasting, chanting, and drumming, awaiting the miracle that would occur on the morning of the new sun's birth. In pre-Christian times, all of Europe from Scandinavia to Italy celebrated this time of year with feasting, dancing, and merrymaking, and above all, light and fire. The classical Romans held a joyful and often rowdy feast known as the Saturnalia, and by the 2nd century CE, they also celebrated the birthday of the unconquered sun, S-U-N, on December 25th, a custom that originated with Mithraism. Further north, the Norse celebrated Yule, a name which could mean wheel, or which possibly gives us the root word for jolly. By the 4th century CE, the Roman Catholic Church pronounced December 25th the official birthday of Jesus of Nazareth, and that it would henceforth be celebrated as the Feast of Christ, Christ's Mass or Christmas. The actual birthday of Christ had never been certain, so after much debate, the ancient midwinter feast was chosen because people were used to celebrating the birth of a S-U-N, sun, God, hero at this time of year. Even then, the church fathers had to continually remind believers that they were supposed to be worshiping the birth of Christ, not the sun. For although this holiday now had a new name, many of the same customs were carried on as they had been for thousands of years, and for the same reason, to banish the dark and welcome back the light.
Thank you, Amy. Let's give Amy some love and appreciation. Thank you, thank you. You just did a beautiful job with that, and especially reminding us, that the sun that was celebrated by the ancients in the solstice traditions, then the Christians took that and called it the sun, S-O-N, the Son of God. And I love what Meister Eckhart says: God has only begotten one son, and that is each one of us. So So we take that to the next level as we celebrate the cosmic Christ. That's what we're about, is a cosmic Christ. And so thank you, Amy. I appreciate that so much. And basically, so everybody's borrowed from that solstice tradition. Solstice is probably the oldest tradition, is what I'm thinking. And what I've been told as well is that, or read as well, as was that people were in the earliest times, people were kind of afraid that the sun wouldn't come back, and so they really celebrated on this at this solstice time because it was the arrival of the sun again. And so what we celebrate with Christmas, and there's so many, I could do a whole talk on all of the metaphors of Christmas. I mean, it's just so rich. But basically what we celebrate during this time is the birth of Christ within us. It's not about outside. And when we talk about the Christ, we're talking about that light within. We're talking about expanding our consciousness. We're talking about what other traditions have called nirvana, absolute truth, Atman, Brahman, the ground of being, Christ consciousness in the Christian tradition, supreme consciousness, higher consciousness. We could go, the list can go on and on and on. All of the different names for this particular consciousness, which simply means, here's the simple definition of that consciousness. One who has attained that consciousness has a deep realization of their oneness with spirit, with all of life. It's an interconnectedness, and it's not even about necessarily our personal sense of oneness with spirit. It's our sense of the interconnectedness of all life, when we can just be with that. And of course, if I am one with spirit, then everyone is, because spirit is not partial, spirit's not bigoted, we're all included in that oneness. Everything is, as Sarah said so beautifully, your evocation was so beautiful, Sarah, as you said so beautifully in the evocation. What did you say? Now it's slipping my mind. But anyway, it was really beautiful, the way you expressed that oneness, that we're all it. And so, so today we want to talk about that. I want to talk about, that Psalm 139 that Sarah read. That's my favorite Psalm. You too, Reverend Verona. I see you. That's my favorite of all Psalms, because first of all, it tells us how loved we are, how precious we are, how, Spirit knew us before we were formed in our mother's womb, that we are all so precious and so cherished by the infinite. And then going on to talk about the darkness and the light, and that the darkness and the light are both alike to thee, speaking to God. And what I always say is the darkness and the light are both alike to me, to you, to all of us, because one is not preferred over the other. Now, in the early days of New Thought, I wasn't there in the earliest of days, but I was there like 30 years ago. We didn't honor the darkness so much. We really didn't. We kind of overlooked it. There was a lot of what we call spiritual bypass going on. There was a lot of, oh no, I'm speaking the truth here. I'm not looking at this. And the reality is the darkness is so precious. I have to stop for a minute and share something with you. It's kind of funny, but I think it gets the point across too. So when I was at Sea Ranch with my friend, Reverend Eunice, she insisted upon buying me these, let me see if you can see them, these salt and pepper shakers. And as many of you know, I was a nun for 9 years. And so one says good habit and one says bad habit. And of course the one with, and then if you could see the face, the bad habit's really not happy looking at all. And the good habit is quite happy. So anyway, and the funny thing is, these things, I didn't even realize it till I got home, they're magnetized. So they stick with each other. Now, I find significance in that, that first of all, I didn't even want her to buy them. I said, don't get me those. She said, oh, I insist, I have to get them. And I was like, no, don't buy them, because I don't like the idea of bad habit, being connected with the dark. And I didn't want to go into a whole dissertation with her about that. But anyway, she insisted, as Eunice often does, she insisted buying me these things. And it's kind of funny, but then I realized, oh my God, they're magnetized. And that says a lot, that the darkness and the light are meant to be together, They're meant to be together. There's a magnetic thing happening here, a magnetic influence happening here, because out of the darkness, you know, in the darkness, I should say, not out of it so much, but in the darkness, we see the light. We see it. I was reading something online by Rabbi David Azazelo, who talks about, although it's the light that permits us to see, you know, that we see things near in the light, but it's the darkness that allows us to see the farthest. The darkness allows us to see the stars, which are light years away from us, you know. So actually in the darkness we can see the farthest. And so then I was looking at that in terms of our own spiritual transformation and the transformation on the planet, because, and I'll go into that a little bit more later, but the transformation on the planet is so important now. And that's why you and I are here, right? Our souls chose to be here for a time such as this. And it takes our own personal transformation, because the planetary transformation happens as we each transform personally. And a word I like to use even better than transformation is transmute or alchemize, you know, that energies that have been used maybe for what we might call bad or evil, what the world might call evil, you know, get transmuted into the light of love, the light of joy, the light of respect, the light of wholeness, the light of abundance, the light of, think of all those, the light of beauty, the light of wisdom, all those radiant lights that Sharon and Reflection gave us in the song. And that Kathy, by the way, asked them to sing. Thank you, Kathy. It's an old Agape song from way back when. So we're here, you know, to transmute. And as we individually transmute consciousness, the world is transmuted. Now, Reverend Michael makes a distinction between the planet and the world. I don't know if you've all here heard him talk about that. He's been talking about it for a few years now. The planet, Mother Earth, the planet, it's kind of like the original vibration, is like the planet. The world he talks about is our collective consciousness. And there are parts of the collective consciousness that are very positive, and there are parts of the collective consciousness that are a lower vibration, let's say. I don't like positive and negative. There are higher vibrations, there are lower vibrations. And so what we want to do is not save the world, because we can't do that anyway, you know, but we want to serve a new paradigm. We want to serve what's trying to emerge. We want to serve what's trying to emerge in the world, and we do that by serving what's trying to emerge within us. Got it? You know, there's something in each of us that's trying to emerge, that's telling us over and over and over again, grow, expand. As I think it's in the Talmud, Sarah can correct me if I'm wrong about this, you know, each blade of grass whispers to us, grow, grow, grow. You know, the planet is, you know, that's in us, you know, that blade of grass is in us saying grow, grow, grow. It's in the world saying grow, grow, grow. So everything we see in the world that we don't like, that looks like injustice, that is injustice, not looks like it, it is injustice, that's oppression, that's not taking good care of Mother Earth, that's, you know, all of the isms, ageism, sexism, homophobia, racism, all of the isms, all of those things that we look at and we say, wow, the world is really kind of a mess right now. You know, it's kind of a mess. And look at all this stuff going on. Well, in this darkness of what we see going on, there's a light that's wanting to emerge, and we're here to serve that emerging light. We're here to see farther in the darkness. We're here to see in the dark, so to speak. That's why we're here. I'm here to see in the dark, to know that in the midst of what looks dark is really something beautiful, and the dark is serving me so that I can see what needs to be transformed. The dark is serving me so I can see what needs to be transformed in my own life, so I can see what needs to be transformed and transmuted in the life of the world. That's why we are here. It's not just to go shopping, although that's fun. Well, for some people it's fun. I get overwhelmed by it. But anyway, we're not here to go shopping or to entertain ourselves. That's kind of more what my deal is, to play games on my iPad all the time. That, to watch Netflix. And those are wonderful things, and we do them. And that's not our primary purpose for being here. Our primary purpose for being here is to grow and expand to our greatest yet to be. And as we do that, the planet is growing and expanding, is evolving to its greatest yet to be. The world is, rather, you see. So we're here for that, to stretch, to grow. And I don't know about you, but sometimes, like if I have downtime, and I got to be clear, even in my downtime, I do my spiritual practices all the time. However, I can also spend a lot of time idling things myself away, doing. And after a little bit, there's something in me that goes, something's wrong. I got to express more. Do you hear what I'm saying? Got to express more. Got to, serve my clients more. Got to serve Agape Bay Area more. Got to serve the planet more. Got to do what really feeds my soul. Because these entertainment things are great, but they don't always feed my soul. So that I'm saying that to say that there's this within us that's pushing us to grow, to develop, to unfold, as we often say at Agape, grow, develop, and unfold to our greatest yet to be. That's saying transmute all of those old patterns into the gold, alchemize them into the gold of God awareness, into the gold of love, of peace, of joy, of harmony, of beauty, of abundance, of wholeness, of all of those beautiful qualities that we know are innate within us, and they get covered sometimes. It's like there's a veil over some of them. And it's not to fault ourselves for anything. It's what we've been taught, right? I mean, I grew up in a world of lack and limitation. And I'm not just talking about money here. I'm talking about the whole context in which I grew up. And most people I know grew up in some kind of context like that, and it was not our parents' fault. They grew up that way. And so what I've noticed is each generation builds on the consciousness of the previous one. And so we are evolving as a people. Look at what's happening now. Look at the movements that are coming forth. Look at our young people. And I'm trying to think of the name of that young girl, that Australian, is she from Australia or New Zealand? She's fighting for the planet, that's her thing to do. Yeah. Anyway, I can't think of her name right now. But anyhow, and people who are big in the, Black Lives Matter movement, people who are big in the Latinx movement, people who are big and have been for a long time in the sexism movement in terms of women and women empowerment. And so we see that there's this happening. And we know ultimately that what's most important is consciousness. And I believe, here's my belief, that these people show up, to stand up, to show up, to lead movements for positive change because of consciousness, because so many of us are doing our work, our inner work. So you may or may not be called to do that, to stand up and to, have a social or political platform. And doing your work in consciousness is the most important work you can do, because we can make changes that are not grounded in consciousness. However, those changes will never be transformational. They'll never really transmute. It's what's happening in consciousness that transmute. And I really see that more and more and more people are willing to stand up, are willing to see the light within. Look at when we have meditations online, for example. Millions of people join in meditations online. Millions of people, thousands of people, catch Michael Beckwith, catch some of the great spiritual teachers of our time, catch us, And so it's Consciousness creates, consciousness transforms, consciousness transmutes. That's what we're here for. And I really know for myself that it's in those times of darkness. And when I'm talking about darkness, I'm talking about when perhaps I feel bogged down by old mistakes, or I feel bogged down by old habit patterns. I was in a meeting this week, and we were talking about something, and I was, in my mind, I was taking responsibility for something that didn't feel good to be taking responsibility for. And for a moment, and actually it was more than a moment, I had some old feelings come up that did not feel good. It's like, oh, dang, I shouldn't have done that. Why did I do that? Have any of you ever had those feelings, or am I alone in this? Okay. Shouldn't have done that. Why did I do that? That was a mistake, blah, blah, blah. And so after I got off the call, I had to do my inner work, you see? But here's the beauty of it. I didn't know that that trigger was still in me, you see? I didn't realize that I could still feel that badly about myself. I thought I had healed that totally. And so as I was able to sit with it, and here's the practice: feel it, sit with it. It's not fun, sit with it, feel it, and then know the truth about it. Know the spiritual reality of yourself. So, so it's that dark moment that allowed me to see that. Do you see? It's what Rabbi was saying. Rabbi Zaslow was saying. It's the darkness that allowed me to see farther. It allowed me to see where areas of my consciousness need to be expanded. I mean, and I'm giving personal examples here because I think sometimes personal examples help a lot when we hear that other people have gone through these. A long, long time ago, when I was in another spiritual community, there was people were upset about, and this was a long, long time ago, people were upset about things I had done, blah, blah, blah. There was a whole thing going on. And what that pointed out to me, it was really hard. And what made it so hard was that it was still lingering in me the need to be approved by other people. And so I realized, oh, okay, this is what's trying to happen here. I need to just be okay no matter what. Because honestly, when I was at Agape South, Agape International, nobody ever disapproved of me because I was the leader of pastoral care. I was the one that made sure everybody got taken care of. Why would people be upset with me? People were always very happy with me. And so I thought, I'm blindly going along thinking, oh, I've healed that. Well, then I get to another community, not healed at all. And God bless, and I thank everyone who really was part of that revelation to me. And it was difficult, you see, and I still consider them, they'll never be my best friends. However, I consider them my greatest teachers, because in those moments of darkness, and it was a couple of years of darkness, I got to see what was going on inside me. I got to transmute that, and they, bless their hearts, they were persistent. They weren't letting go until I healed pretty much of it, until I healed pretty much of it. They were persistent with this stuff. And so thank you, thank you for letting me experience that time. Thank you for letting me see farther into myself so that I could, I don't like the word heal, but reveal the truth about myself so that I could let go of that old pattern, you see, of having to be liked, of having to be approved of having to be right. That's a big one for a lot of us, having to be right. I could let go of that stuff. And so, again, in the darkness, we get to see deep within ourselves what's going on. How beautiful is that? And then we get to transmute it. We have the power. Here's the thing. I'll tell you, here's a metaphysical teaching. Science of Mind teaches this really, really well, I think. The conscious mind, the subconscious mind, right? And then they call it the seed, the soil, and the plant. The conscious mind we would equate to the light. The conscious mind, it's what I'm conscious of, it's what I'm seeing on the outside, it's what I'm seeing even on the inside at a conscious level. That's equal to the light. We could say that's where light is. The subconscious mind, subterranean, it's that place deep within where those old patterns are. Some of them are great patterns. Some of them are not helpful to us. Let's put it that way. The subconscious mind, that's equivalent to the darkness. And here's the thing, folks, that the subconscious mind controls, scientists think that the subconscious mind controls about 95% of our lives. The conscious mind only controls about 5% of our lives. So how does that work in terms of, transformation and transmutation? How it works is I can be saying affirmations, saying affirmations is an important part of our practice. I can be saying affirmations, I can be making treasure maps, or vision boards, I can be doing all this stuff. And it's at the conscious level. If it doesn't sink down into the subconscious, if I don't become absolutely certain and aware of it, confident that it's the truth, then the subconscious hasn't changed and that's still ruling me. So what I want to do is create new subconscious patterns. So instead of having to be liked by everyone and approved by everyone, now I don't care so much. Okay, now I said that. Now, of course, the universe is going to send me something. But anyway, just to say, yeah, you think so? So what had to happen is I had to repattern myself. I had to repattern myself into knowing that I am just whole and perfect and fine and approved of, no matter what anybody in the outside world thinks. Do you see? And that had to go so deep that I absolutely believe it now. Now, it could have just stayed on the surface if I hadn't done my spiritual work. And what kind of spiritual work does that take? It takes meditation. And I know some people do all kinds of spiritual work and avoid meditation, and it takes sitting in the silence. It really takes that. Sitting in the silence and allowing things to emerge, allowing things to come up. Because I'm telling you, don't you notice, those of you who meditate a lot, don't you notice that a lot of what comes up is stuff you don't necessarily want to look at? And that's powerful. That's wonderful. Yay, I always kind of, every time I've gone into meditation since I first started meditating when I was in the convent, was I always got the sense of darkness, the sense of going into the darkness, going into the depths, going there. And it's always, I remember telling Reverend Michael so many times, my meditations are terrible. They're just awful. I'm getting nowhere. All this stuff just, and he must have gotten so tired of saying, that's just fine. That's good. That's wonderful, because the stuff is coming up to be transmuted. So meditate, meditate, meditate. And if you say to me, I can't do it, I'm not, my thoughts go crazy, that's normal. That's natural. Here's the thing to do when your thoughts go crazy in meditation: notice them, watch them. You might want to write down some of the patterns if you want to remember them. Journal about them later. But spend some time in the silence. That's where the work is done. And something will start to change in you. I know some of you have told me that people notice how you're different. And people have told me, oh, my friends, they want to know, how come I'm so different now? They want to know what I'm doing that's so different. And so you start to glow. You start to, and even during those dark times when you're finding yourselves challenged, you're still in that place of glow, because you have transmuted your consciousness. And as you have done that, as you become more loving in your heart, the world becomes more loving. As you become more peaceful in your heart, the world becomes more peaceful. As you become more harmonious in your heart, your relationships and the world becomes more harmonious. Do you hear? Do you hear? And the stuff, the stuff that comes up, it'll always come up. And that's okay. That's good. That's wonderful. It comes up so that you can grow and unfold to your greatest yet to be. So I've learned over the years, for the most part, there are still moments like I had last week. There are still moments, but they're only moments. When the joy when I can't feel the joy, The majority of the time, I feel the joy of living, you see. Even when I see stuff around me that makes me sad, it doesn't mean that I look at some events like what's going on, that tornado in Kentucky, or I look at so many Black people being murdered. When I look at those things, yeah, my heart hurts. My heart breaks open. And again, in the darkness of that, my heart's opening more and more and more. And I'm willing to take into my heart all of those individuals. I'm willing, always, not always successful in this one, but I'm willing to take into my heart, people, politicians mostly, I have to say, who truly irritate me. And not only irritate me, but I'm going like, oh my God, and their God too. Oh my God is right. Oh, that's what I should say. I should say, oh my God, just remembering their spirit too. That's a dimension of myself that I'm seeing. You have people in your life that irritate you, that you have a hard time getting along with. Oh my God, there's God. There's a dimension of me. There's a part of myself, you see. And then the next question could be, what part of me are they displaying? What part of me is on display in them? That's the deep question. Because generally it's something in ourselves. If we get that rattled, that irritated, it's something within ourselves usually. All of this is just to say that the darkness allows us to see these patterns. It allows us to see farther than the light of our consciousness, our brain consciousness, our mind consciousness, that 5%. It allows us to see more. It allows us to transmute, to transform, to be our greatest yet to be. On the planet now, when we see, all the stuff, it looks dark. It looks really dark lots of times. And that's beautiful. We're seeing things that we were not willing to look at years ago, centuries ago. Finally, after 400 years in our country, we're seeing, we're more willing to see. We're more willing to transform. We're more willing to transmute. And so I see that a time that looks dark is a time of renaissance, really. It's a time of a new paradigm wanting to emerge. And we're the midwives. We're the ones who are giving birth to it. And it's a beautiful thing. And this time of the year reminds me of that more than any time, really. And I love this time. It touches me deeply. So, and for those of us that were raised Christian, Jesus didn't come to save us. Jesus came as the example. He came as a great teacher. He was a rabbi, he was a Jewish guy. He didn't come to even found Christianity, by the way, in case some of you think that. No, he didn't come to do that. That happened 300 years after he died. He came to have a small community of people that loved each other, that knew the truth, that stood in the truth. That's what he came to do, because he knew consciousness, and the world is finally catching up to his consciousness. But so Jesus and ancestors, Buddha, all of the great ones, we stand on their shoulders as we do our work. I had an interesting thought yesterday morning. Some of you have probably thought this before and are thinking, just now she's coming to this. I was thinking about the ancestors yesterday morning, and it occurred to me, I thought, oh, well, if you believe in reincarnation, that you are your ancestors. I just got that real clearly, like, oh, I am my ancestors. Maybe maybe I was one of those ancestors, but now I don't know. Anyway, that has nothing to do with the talk really, but I just wanted to share it because it came to me so loud and clear, and it's like, whoa, okay. Let me take a breath here. So basically, I'm going to wind it up here. Basically, we're in a dark time, and thank God we are, because we get to see that which wants to be transmuted. We get to see our work. We get to see what we're here to do. We get to see within us where we get triggered. What's up for transformation, for transmutation within us. We're here to be alchemists, to change the dross into gold. That's what we're here for. And not just to change things, but to transmute things. There is a difference. We're here to be transmuters of consciousness. And so during this time, I honor the dark, I honor the light, I honor both of them. And I know there's so many other dimensions of both that we could be talking about. And I honor that too, that this is what came through at this particular moment in this particular time. So are you willing is the question. Ask yourself, are you willing? Am I willing to be a point of transmutation on this planet? Am I willing to so turn my life upside down, to give when I don't feel like giving, to serve when I don't feel like serving, to love when I don't feel like loving, to be peaceful and harmonious when it doesn't feel like it? Am I willing to be all of that? Am I willing to see my own wholeness and perfection when my body's trying to tell me something different? Am I willing to know abundance and prosperity for everybody, not just myself, and to know that there is a sufficiency in the world? Am I willing to stand in that? And as we stand in that, the stuff unlike it will come up, and that's great because it comes up to be released. It comes up to be transmuted. Then we get to say, oh, okay, here's that old pattern of lack. I'm claiming abundance. I'm claiming and knowing that's not the truth of me, you know. And just one last little thing. This past week, I got an X-ray of my ankle, you know, and I read the X-ray and I thought, oh, it looks like there's still a fracture there. You know, I mean, Kaiser sends the results to us. And so I read the words, you know, and then Virginia helped me to kind of translate what that meant. So I had a moment or two. I had a moment or two of going, oh, it's not the healing the way it should. Do I have to put the boot back on? You know, I had a moment or two of that. Went to the doctor on Thursday and he's impressed. He's like, oh my, he said, you are healing magnificently. You know, I took don't we do that? Don't we do that? And that's what we do all the time. I mean, unconsciously, we take things in and worry, of course, is about future. You know, do I have to put that thing on again? Can't I dance around anymore for a while? What's going on here? And the reality was nothing was wrong. And in fact, everything's healing absolutely beautifully. And so transmute those places in ourselves. Transmute those places in ourselves. And the world transmutes. And don't get duped by things you see in the world and think that the world's going to hell in a handbasket, as a lot of people would say. Don't let yourself fall for that. That's not what's happening. What's happening is that the old paradigm is dying. It has to die so that the new can emerge. And we're part of that emergent paradigm. We're here to bring it forth. How beautiful is that we get to be that? Oh my God, it's absolutely beautiful. And it's beautiful to be in community with individuals who have that same intention, the power of community. I won't go any farther because that's a whole other talk, and I'm sure we're finished at the moment. So let us take a moment now and turn within to prayer.